morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to take a look at the best Pokemon decks around at the moment, bearing in mind that Rebel Clash is out and is a thing. And I'll tell you something for nothing. The hierarchy, as it were, has been switched around quite dramatically with the release of the new set. Now, I should mention we are taking as a bit of a guide here the Limitless Qualifier number 3. No, I am not only looking at the results of that. It's also discussion with people and having a chat and all of that good stuff. But I do think the things have changed somewhat dramatically. Now, there are a couple of decks which are very good, but I don't think are going to make our top 5 list. Obstagoon, still a very fun deck. We've got a Pokemon that's attacked and then gets immunity from basic Pokemon. That's pretty good. Not to mention you drop 3 damage counters when you evolve into it and 1 damage counter when you bench a Galarian Zigzagoon, so that's kind of nice. It's a really good, fun deck, and I've got an awful lot of time and love for the deck, but I don't think it is one of the top 5 decks. It's nice to have both Yveltal and Sableye for options for doing lots of damage. Yveltal, remember, gets an automatic 1-hit KO on anything that's got 4 damage counters on. I'll let you decide if you can count that as a 1-hit KO or not. And then Sableye does 10 damage plus 60 more for each damage counter on the Pokemon. So you can block your basics or you can spread some damage around and do giant damage with Sableye. Lot to love, not in the top 5. Similarly, our old friend Mewtwo and Mew. I love Mewtwo and Mew. It's a very good deck, and it's a kind of deck where you can play and you're going to see some success. But if we go and have a look at the Limitless Qualifier, the highest Mewtwo and Mew we saw was Satoru Nagano, apologies for the pronunciation, coming in at 23rd place, and then we didn't actually see another one of those until Takahiro Ikeda, that came in at 54th place. What I'm saying is that although Japanese players, 65th Yuki Higashida, it does seem much more popular among Japanese players, but it isn't getting up to the top tables around at the moment. My apologies. It's the same deck it's always been. It's Mewtwo and Mew copying the attacks of any EX or GX in the discard pile or on the field. And like there has always been, there are a million different ways you can actually go about playing it. You could go the Malamar list, really focusing on psychic things, maybe a bit of the old Trevenant and Dusknoir, if that's where you're thinking about going. You can go for let's go for a more aggressive list maybe, with Solgaleo GX accelerating energy onto the field very, very quickly in the game. You could go for the Welder list, although you generally still play some psychic Pokemon with the odd psychic energy here or there. And you really can make the deck fit whatever you want it to fit. But the fact of the matter is, maybe it's a little bit too slow. Maybe it's not quite hard-hitting enough. Maybe it's the fact that it gives up free prizes in a format where you can't necessarily one-hit KO everything back. Or maybe it's the fact that it's weak to Dragapult that is going to be a little bit higher up on this list. Either way, ladies and gentlemen, it's just not quite there at the moment. So, I'm still not 100% sure on the lower part of this list, but let's say that coming in at number 5, we've got Cinccino Mill, and I do think 4 and 5 can be switched around pretty much willy-nilly. And it really is revolving around Cinccino to draw cards, and Oranguru to recover whichever cards you want, and put them at the bottom of your deck. So essentially you can spend the entire game constantly getting back anything you want. Now this did actually take 4th place at the Limitless Qualifier number 3, but then kind of dropped off the map. It wouldn't be seen again in terms of, running down top to bottom until it took 84th and 85th place. Although there was a Macargo line, very similar kind of deck, which did come up a little bit higher. So we've got a deck here with an extremely high ceiling, but it's not getting the consistent top cuts that maybe other decks might. Now, you generally do tend to play Zacian here. You're not attacking with Zacian, incidentally. You're using Zacian just to draw yourself 3 cards and end your turn, because you're literally not playing the energy you need to attack with it. You're playing Jirachi for a little bit of added consistency. You're playing Girafarig to lost zone your opponent's cards from the discard pile. And you're obviously playing Articuno GX, so that if your opponent does build up one Pokemon with lots of energy on, Articuno can come and take them down. And then you're just going full disruption. We've got Team Yell Grunt to just start removing energy and running your opponent out of energy until they can't attack, and then they lose. Obviously, Crushing Hammer played for pretty much the same deal. We got Lily's Pokédoll, which you can whack in the active, and it doesn't give up a prize, and obviously, as with all of these cards, you can reuse them over and over and over again. And then we've got Balelbra and Bryson Man for some good old-fashioned milling. It's a very powerful deck, and if you wanted to put it up at number 4, I wouldn't be sad. Up at number 4, however, I'm putting Zacian decks, and you could go Zacian ADP, or you could go Zacian, Lucario, and Melmetal. ADP, you've got the GX attack that lets you do an extra 30 damage and take an extra prize every time you attack. Although you've got to take a KO to take the extra prize, obviously. And then we've got the Lucario and Melmetal build, where you combine it with Metal Frying Pan, and you're taking 60 less damage from attacks, while having no weakness, which is pretty good. Honestly, Zacian was not well represented this past weekend. We saw Aaron McGlynn go and get 22nd place with the Lucario and Melmetal build, and we saw people like LeBoy, and Axel Alvarez getting 29th and 31st place with the Zacian ADP build. What happened, given that this was basically the number 1 deck pre-Rebel Clash? I say basic number 1 deck. It was the number 1 deck pre-Rebel Clash. The answer is not a phenomenal Dragapult matchup. You're 2-hit KOing, but they're doing it better. And not a phenomenal Baby Blacephalon matchup because of the whole weakness thing. And of course, with Tool Scrapper coming out now, Baby Blacephalon can hit you for weakness because they can just get rid of your Metal Frying Pan. Although, as I say that, the highest finishing Blacephalon disc didn't even play Tool Scrapper. You can one-hit KO without it. And that's kind of the problem with Zacian. Zacian is as good a deck as it's always been. It just doesn't necessarily have the matchups against the top decks at the moment, and that's a little bit of a problem. Sorry. Now, the deck is as it's been. You've got Metal Saucer to accelerate energy. You've got the ability that accelerates energy while also drawing 3 cards. You are hitting a decent amount of damage, and then you're either using ADP to take stuff out while taking extra prizes, or Lucario and Melmetal to tank a little bit, and life is pretty good. In at number 3, we've got Baby Blacephalon. We've got the non-GX Blacephalon. It is a very, very powerful single prize deck. You basically end up with 3 energy on, and then you discard as much fire energy from your hand, doing 50 for each energy discarded in this way. And I know that it does sound a little bit awkward, having all that energy, but you've got Welder to accelerate energy onto it. You've got Fiery Flint to search your deck for that energy. You've got Giant Half to search your deck for that energy. You can play Beast Ring to accelerate a little bit of extra energy. Not all the decks do, but you still at least have that option. One of the big advantages they've actually been taking advantage of lately is Beastbringer. That is the new Pokemon tool, whereby if you take a KO on a GX or EX with exactly 6 prizes remaining, you take an extra prize. People have been using that to win games against some of these tag team decks. Doesn't work against Vs and VMAXs, but it does work against the tag teams very, very nicely. Generally, you will play 1 copy of Blacephalon GX just for big smashing. You get to Lost Zone as much fire energy as you like on the field, 50 damage for each one Lost Zoned. And Cramorant V becomes fairly important because Cramorant V lets you do 160 damage to one of your opponent's Pokemon. And generally here we're looking at a cheeky KO on a Dedenne for 2 prizes. It's a very, very powerful deck. It's got one-hit KO potential against literally anything, and that's how it ends up so gosh darn high. In at number 2, the biggest new deck on the list. It is Dragapult VMAX, a Pokemon that I put number 2 on my top 10 VMAXs list, and I'm starting to regret it quite, yeah. I'm starting to feel like I've been a little bit silly with that one. Honest opinion at the time, gave my reasoning, but there's some regret, ladies and gentlemen. There is some regret. Dragapult VMAX for just 2 energy does 130 damage and places 5 damage counters on your opponent's bench Pokemon in any way that you like. Plus 320 HP is very difficult to get a KO on, even for something like Baby Blacephalon. And then you use Horror Energy, so that if you do attack this, you have to take 2 damage counters. And that's if there's 1 Horror Energy, it does stack, so 2 Horror Energy, 4 damage counters, etc. And this is a deck that has really started to take advantage of Scoop Up Net. You use it with Galarian Zigzagoon, so you can constantly pick it up and put it down and do extra damage. And you play it with Mewtwo, that being the one from Unbroken Bond, where when you play it from your hand onto your bench, you get to put a supporter card on top of your deck. And we just see a super, super powerful deck here with so much potential. Also often played with Giant Bomb. So if you try and do 180 damage to it, you have to take 10 damage counters. Bearing in mind, you will also often be taking damage counters because of Horror Energy. And it really isn't that unusual to have to take 14 damage counters when you attack Dragapult. So you're 2-hit KOing, but you're taking a lot of damage if you want to try and attack Dragapult. And it's starting to abuse stuff like Galarian Zigzagoon, and it's... yeah. The fact that Dragapult VMAX is not taking giant one-hit KOs doesn't really matter because of all the other stuff going on in the deck. And that's why something like Zacian has such a problem. It's not getting one-hit KOs, it is taking a lot of damage to attack. And incidentally, if you take too much damage when you attack Dragapult VMAX, then they can go and essentially get you in one attack because you've been whittled down enough when you attack and take damage. Make no mistake about it, ladies and gentlemen, Dragapult is good and Dragapult is here to stay. But it's not the number 1 deck. The number 1 deck is Pikachu and Zekrom. And maybe this will change. But at the Limitless Qualifier number 3, first place Pikachu and Zekrom, second place Pikachu and Zekrom, 6th place Pikachu and Zekrom, 7th place, 10th place. It was 5 of the top 10, 2 of the top 4, 4 of the top 8, really 4 of the top 7. It is the best deck around. I saw a couple of other online tournaments were running this past weekend that were won by... oh look. It was Pikachu and Zekrom. Pikachu and Zekrom is a very, very good deck. And the reason why it's coming back around again is that the biggest challenger to it, Zacian, has been kind of pushed back by the emergence of Dragapult, which means that Pikachu and Zekrom has just risen to the top. And this might change over the next few weeks, but right now, if we look at the actual data and the tournament results, and I know they're online tournaments and blah, 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 but if we look at the actual data in front of us, I really do not think there is a credible argument against Pikachu and Zekrom being the number 1 deck. Now, Pikachu and Zekrom has changed a little bit, but really it's just got a couple of extra tricks. It still revolves around Pikachu and Zekrom, free energy 150 and you attach free energy from your deck. And then if you got 6 energy on, you do 200 to the active, 170 to one of your opponent's bench. Hey Dedenne. You're still using Dedenne for extra speed. You're still teching in 1 Raichu and a Alolan Raichu, so that you can do 160 plus automatic paralysis. Incidentally, I did do a video about the winning Pikachu and Zekrom list from the Limitless Qualifier number 3. I'll pop a link in the description. Check it out. It's a really fun list. You're still using a combination of Thunder Mountain and Tapu Koko Prism Star, so that you can actually use a free energy attack on turn 1 and really start rolling. You've still got Electro Power to do extra damage, Electromagnetic Radar to search out your Pokemon. The difference is you've now got Speed Energy, It's a lightning energy, but when you attach it, you draw 2 cards. That is a phenomenal thing. It basically means that over the course of an average game, you'll be drawing an extra 8 cards. That is redonk. And you've got Boltund V here, and Boltund basically does, well, it punishes your opponent for letting you get energy out. 2 energy, 10 damage, plus 30 more for each lightning energy attached to all of your Pokemon. Bearing in mind, if you just get a couple of full Blitz off with Pikachu and Zekrom, there is going to be a lot of energy on the field. It's also got a really nice emergency attack. Single energy, and you search your deck for 2 lightning energy and attach them to your bench Pokemon in any way you like. You would rather get the turn 1 full Blitz. But if you don't get the turn 1 full Blitz, Boltund will get a couple energy on Pikachu and Zekrom to basically guarantee the turn 2 full Blitz, which is pretty good. Things have shaken around. Zacian has fallen quite dramatically, Pikachu and Zekrom has risen quite dramatically, and Dragapult has come around to really position itself as the best new deck from Rebel Clash. So now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to know from you guys, do you disagree with this ranking? Or I suppose, maybe a better question, do you think this ranking is going to change over the next few days? Let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, or you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WasiPlays, where you can find out about a whole bunch of games that don't have Pokemon in, but are pretty gosh darned awesome nonetheless. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.